A rookie sailor ignored an order during a live stealth drill 600 feet under the Arctic Sea. What followed didn't just shake the submarine. It changed the entire crew forever. Let us know in the comments which branch of the military you admire. Most. The USS Trident moved like a shadow beneath the ice. No sound, no light, no mercy for mistakes. And yet, in the control room, a mistake had just happened. Seaman Mercer froze, his hand still resting on the switch he wasn't supposed to touch. The drill had been clear, full silence maneuver, no manual overrides, only verbal commands from command. But Mercer had panicked. A flickering monitor had spooked him. He thought something was wrong with the electrical relay, so he reached out. A single movement, a single override, a single beep. Everyone heard it. Lieutenant Commander Brandt turned his head slowly from sonar. The glow of the green screen reflected off his expressionless face. "Mercer," he said flatly, "what did you just do?" I thought it was shorting out," Mercer stammered. "I only wanted to—" "You thought," Brandt repeated. Across the control room, Chief McCallan, built like an engine block, voice like cold steel, stood up from his station and approached. "No one here thinks," he said quietly. "We—" "Follow orders. That beep you triggered? If this were active ops, we'd be dead already." Mercer's face drained of color. Commander Donovan, the ship's captain, didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than any scream. He slowly walked forward and stood directly in front of Mercer. "There are 137 lives on this vessel," he said, "and your hand just risked all of them." Mercer opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Donovan didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. "Leave the control room." Mercer hesitated. "Now." Mercer turned and walked out. No one said a word, but the air in the room felt different. Heavier, as if the sea outside had crept in to listen. After the drill, Mercer was reassigned, not punished, not yet, but stripped of control room duty. He was moved to damage control rotation, low status, high risk, no electronics, just steel, heat, and pressure. Chief McCallan met him there. "You're not being thrown out," he said, "but you are going to earn your spot back, or sink trying." Mercer didn't protest. His first task, clean and inspect the auxiliary exhaust ducts in the aft compartment. Narrow spaces, sharp corners, constant noise. For hours, he scraped carbon buildup from steel vents, his hands raw, his coveralls soaked in sweat. When he finished, he didn't collapse. He stood. He asked for the next task. By the third day, something began to shift. He wasn't moving like a scared rookie anymore. He anticipated checks. He double-read instructions. He reported anomalies before they became problems. And the crew noticed. On the fifth day, the Trident began a sonar shadowing mission off the Norwegian Sea. Quiet waters, perfect for listening, perfect for mistakes. Mercer was allowed back in the control room on a trial basis. He took his station at diagnostics, quiet, steady, focused. 2 hours in, a faint hum rippled through the deck. Nothing major, but different. Lieutenant Brandt noticed it too. "Do you feel that?" "Yes, sir," Mercer replied. "It's not mechanical." "What is it then?" Mercer studied the vibration pattern. "It's harmonic, external. Something's pinging us." Brandt leaned forward. "Confirmed." "Passive sonar ping, very weak." Commander Donovan entered, already sensing the change in air. "Talk to me," he said. Mercer replied, steady as stone. "Unknown contact. Bearing 219. Distance unknown. Feels like a scan, deliberately weak. Like they want to see who blinks first." Brandt looked at Donovan. "What's the call?" Donovan waited 1 beat. "Maintain course." No response. "Let them wonder." For the next 4 hours, the Trident played ghost. Mercer sat motionless, monitoring every frequency. And then, it stopped. The external ping vanished. "Contact gone," Mercer reported. Either they gave up, or we passed their test. No one said a word. Donovan finally spoke. "Well done, Seaman." And that time, Mercer didn't flinch. 2 days after the sonar encounter, the USS Trident was ordered farther north, close to contested waters that hadn't seen an American sub in over a decade. It wasn't a drill anymore. The mood aboard the vessel shifted. There were fewer jokes, fewer glances between crew members. Everything was quieter, tighter. The sea outside wasn't just cold now, it was hostile. Seaman Mercer had returned to full duty, but he hadn't forgotten. Every time he reached for a switch, he paused just long enough to know it was right, and others noticed. Not with words, but with space. They began to make room for him, literally, at briefings, in the galley. Even Chief McCallan had stopped looking at him like a live wire. At 0300 hours, Mercer was called to sonar rotation. Trident was running completely dark. No active sonar, no pings, no communication. Just passive listening as they approached the edge of the Russian operation zone. Mercer sat beside Petty Officer Dugan, a sonar tech with years more experience and a dry sense of humor. "You hear that?" Dugan muttered, eyes on the screen. "Just current noise," Mercer said. "Exactly," Dugan replied. "Which means something's missing." Mercer turned back to the console. He adjusted the filter frequency, dipped the gain, squinted. There it was, an acoustic void. Not silence, forced silence. "Someone's masking their signature," Mercer whispered. "Dead zone at 262. "Confirmed," Dugan said. "Could be a Russian Kilo class." Mercer tapped the console. "They're not drifting, they're tracking us." The room went silent. Commander Donovan arrived seconds later, wordless, already reading the tension in the room. "Explain," he said. Mercer stood. "We're being shadowed, sir. Passive signal is artificial. No marine life in the zone, no displacement pattern. They're suppressing their own profile." Donovan nodded. "And they're waiting for us to blink." Brandt leaned over the table. "Should we break stealth and ping them first?" Donovan didn't answer. Instead, he said, "Maintain course, no changes. Let them burn power chasing us." But they weren't chasing, they were testing. Over the next 3 hours, the mystery sub adjusted course in near-perfect sync with the Trident. Never overt, never reckless. Just enough to say, "We know you're here." Then something happened that no one expected. The Trident's forward pump shut down, suddenly. Without cause, the vessel tilted by 4 degrees. Barely noticeable, but deadly if uncorrected at that depth. "Power routing error," the engineer called out. "Backup feed isn't responding." Commander Donovan's voice was sharp. "I want that pump back online now." Below deck, Chief McCallan and Mercer moved fast. The two of them slipped into the maintenance chamber together, crawling through tight pipes and pressure valves. "Secondary switch should have caught that," McCallan grunted. This wasn't just bad wiring. Mercer reached the bypass node and froze. The relay box had been tampered with. Wires were clean cut, not burnt. The panel screws had tool marks. "This was done on purpose," Mercer said. "We have sabotage." McCallan's face went hard. "You sure?" Mercer pulled a piece of wire free and held it up. Someone clipped the override, then resealed the panel. They both stared at each other in the dim red glow of emergency lights. "That means," McCallan said. "Someone on board wanted us to tilt," Mercer finished, "and be detected." Minutes later, Mercer and McCallan returned to the control room and handed the wire to Commander Donovan. "This was sabotage," McCallan said. "Internal." Donovan's expression didn't change, but the silence around him did. An investigation began instantly. All non-critical crew were questioned. Logs were reviewed. Mercer and Brandt double-checked relay access reports. 2 names appeared on the list. From the night before, Mercer and Seaman Callan. "Callan?" Mercer repeated. "He was off rotation." Brandt nodded. "Exactly." Callan was brought in for questioning. He denied everything, said he was doing routine maintenance, nothing more. But McCallan wasn't convinced. and neither was Mercer. That night, the Trident entered the deepest part of its patrol, a region where no sonar worked properly, where sound bent and bounced like ghosts. It was the perfect place to vanish, or be ambushed. At 1:17 hours, sonar picked up a faint click, then another, not machine-like, organic. Whale song, except too rhythmic, too even. Then came a ping, not from them, from us. A sonar burst had been triggered from inside the Trident, and every vessel in the North Atlantic now knew where they were. Who triggered that pulse? Donovan roared. "No one authorized it!" the sonar tech shouted back. Mercer looked at the console. "Secondary burst relay. Manual override from AFT Station 6. Brant turned to Donovan. "That's where Callan was last stationed." "Get him." But Callan was gone. Nowhere on board. Not in his bunk. Not in maintenance. Not in the galley. Only one place left. The torpedo room. McCallan and Mercer moved fast, cutting through corridors like bullets. They burst through the hatch and... there he was. Callan, crouched behind the retracted launch housing, hands still damp with sweat. A bag beside him. Tools. A hacked relay controller. Mercer didn't wait. He charged, tackling Callan into the bulkhead. "What did you do?" he shouted. "I was following orders," Callan snapped back. "You don't know what's really going. On out there!" McCallan pulled him off. "We're Navy," he growled. "You don't think. You serve." Donovan had him restrained and confined to quarters under constant watch. The saboteur had been caught, but damage was done. Another ping, this time external. The Russian sub had locked on. The Trident was now the hunted. Donovan made the call. Emergency. Descent, 900 feet. Ballast purge silent. Manual override only. As the sub dropped, alarms wailed. Pressure built. The hull groaned like a dying whale. Mercer took his position at ballast relay. Chief McCallan was beside him. "You ready for this?" Mercer nodded. "We screw this up," McCallan said. "We're a steel coffin at the bottom." Together they rerouted the ballast purge, released manual vents. Adjusted trim by hand, the dive leveled, depth held. Sonar showed the enemy sub rising, searching, but not finding. After 15 minutes of silence, the signal vanished. They had evaded. When the lights returned to normal, Commander Donovan turned. To Mercer. "You were right," he said. "And you were ready." Mercer didn't speak. He just exhaled, and the crew looked at him differently from that moment on. Not as the guy who once broke protocol, but as the man who saved their mission. For the next 12 hours, the USS Trident drifted through black water like a wounded animal. The Russian sub had broken contact, but the risk hadn't disappeared. The crew operated under strict radio silence. No transmissions, no movement outside. The ship's core systems, just survival. Inside, the real storm had only begun. Seaman Callan was confined under armed watch in the aft storage compartment, locked behind a steel bulkhead, his gear seized, his future sealed. But no one talked about him, not directly. The word traitor hung in the air like diesel smoke. In the mess, conversations were clipped. Jokes were forced. Trust had become a currency, and everyone was checking who still had credit. "Commander." Donovan moved like a ghost through the corridors, speaking only when necessary. He didn't yell. He didn't punish. But his presence had changed. He was heavier, sharper. Every step he took echoed. At 0500 hours, he called a private meeting with Lieutenant Commander Brant and Chief McCallan. Mercer was summoned too. The eyes. 4 men stood inside the ship's primary systems briefing room, walls lined with outdated charts and emergency response procedures that hadn't been touched since basic training. Donovan got straight to it. Seaman Callan was acting on outside. "Orders," Brant frowned. "How do you know?" Donovan placed a folder on the table. It was sealed with red tape. Intel intercepts flagged Callan's brother 2 months ago. Known contact with foreign naval assets. It was overlooked, buried. Mercer's eyes widened. "So we were a target the entire time?" Donovan nodded. "And this wasn't just an accident. We were selected. Trident was chosen because we're Deep Shadow certified. If we'd been compromised, if they'd planted a relay virus through Callan's hack, we could have sent back manipulated sonar data for months before anyone noticed." Chief McCallan let out a low whistle. "This wasn't sabotage," he muttered. "This was strategic infiltration." Donovan turned to Mercer. "You flagged the problem. You found the bypass. You prevented the data breach." Mercer shook his head. "It was a team effort." "No," Donovan said quietly. "It was you. You made the call. And now, I need you again." He slid a second folder forward. "You're being temporarily promoted to Sonar Systems Supervisor." Brandt raised an eyebrow. "That position's reserved for senior enlisted." Donovan held up a hand. "I've cleared it with Fleet Command. This is not about rank. It's about readiness." Mercer opened the folder. His name was printed next to a new authorization code. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," McCallan muttered. "Just keep earning it. Later." That day, Mercer took his place beside Dugan, now reporting to him. The command console felt colder somehow. Bigger. He didn't feel ready. But that didn't matter anymore. At 1900 hours, the unexpected happened. A distress call. Encrypted. American. Signature. Faint. Mayday. This is USS Argonne. Damaged. Propulsion offline. Drifting. Request assistance. Commander Donovan reviewed the call himself. "Location?" Brandt replied. "Approximately 42 nautical miles east, near a trench drop. Could be real. Could be a trap." Donovan turned to sonar. "Confirm the vessel?" Dugan checked the pulse. "Matching signature for Argonne, but it's weak. Could be spoofed." Donovan looked to Mercer. "What's your read?" Mercer hesitated. "It feels off." "How?" "The cadence of the Mayday. It's too clean." "No environmental interference. Almost like it was pre-recorded." Donovan stared at the screen. "Could be bait." Mercer nodded. "If we respond, we surface. If we surface, we expose our position." Donovan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "We go." But silent. Deep dive. Intercept vector without surfacing. If it's real, we assist. If it's not, we disappear. The crew made preparations. The Trident turned northeast and dove to 950 feet, pushing the edge of its hull tolerances. Metal groaned. Systems protested, but no one spoke against it. As they approached the coordinates, sonar picked up faint noise, metal scraping. No propulsion, no voices. Mercer stared at the screen. "It's a vessel, all right." Donovan leaned forward. "But not the Argonne." "What is it?" McCallan asked. "Too small. Too slow. It's a decoy." Mercer frowned. "Wait. Listen. Low, rhythmic tapping." Dugan adjusted gain. Then, clear as glass. "You took the bait, a signal, not in words, but in pattern. It was a taunt. An explosion rocked the stern. Boom! Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Shockwave off starboard side. "No hull breach, but we're compromised. Emergency dive," Donovan shouted, but nothing happened. No propulsion. Backup thrusters offline. McCallan grabbed the comm. "We're drifting." Mercer looked at the sonar screen. A new contact. Fast. Silent. Coming up from below. A second sub. Not Russian. Not American unknown. It was waiting. The Trident was trapped. Mercer stood. He saw it immediately. "They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to capture us." Dugan blinked. "Capture? They want the ship intact. Maybe the data, maybe the tech, or maybe the crew." Donovan didn't hesitate. "All non-essential systems, offline. Transfer full battery power to thrusters. I don't care if it fries the relays. Get us moving." Mercer turned to McCallan. "I know a shortcut." "To where?" "To the power junctions. We bypass the throttle limiter. We might get 30 seconds of thrust." 30 seconds? McCallan growled. "Enough to break the magnetic field. They ran, crawled through steam-choked vents, slid down panels. Every second counted. Mercer reached the bypass node, hands shaking. Then he stopped. The old relay box. The same one he'd tampered with weeks ago during the silent drill. The mistake that almost got them all killed. Now it was the key. He opened the panel, adjusted the limiters, rerouted through the backup battery. McAllen shouted, "Now!" Mercer yanked the lever. Back in control, the Trident shuddered, then lurched forward, not smoothly, but violently, like a horse breaking a bridle. The shock threw crew members into walls, but it worked. The magnetic field broke. The sonar contact disappeared. Gone. After 10 seconds, power failed, but they were alive, adrift, but free. Back in the control room, silence. Returned, McAllen and Mercer stood before Donovan. "You disobeyed the drill," Donovan said quietly, "but you saved the ship." Mercer nodded. "I learned my lesson, and then I remembered it." Donovan turned to McAllen. "Train him, fully. I want him certified before the next patrol." McAllen smirked, was already planning on it. And Mercer? He didn't feel like a rookie anymore. He felt like a sailor, like someone who belonged. The USS Trident floated in darkness, disabled but alive. For over 10 hours they drifted silently, riding slow Arctic currents as the engineering team worked around the clock to reroute power, stabilize systems, and restart the backup propulsion unit. No one slept, no one complained, everyone worked. Seaman Mercer sat quietly in the crew mess, a metal mug of coffee cradled in his hands. His uniform was soaked in sweat and oil, streaked with soot, blood, and adrenaline. He hadn't taken a break since the relay bypass. Chief McAllen dropped into the seat across from him. "You saved the ship again." Mercer didn't respond right. "Away. I also almost doomed it." "Months ago." McAllen leaned back. "Yeah, you did." Mercer looked up, expecting a laugh. But McAllen was serious. "You messed up," he said. "Bad. We all saw it. Some of us thought you wouldn't come back from it, that you weren't made for this world. And maybe you weren't, back then." McAllen took a sip of his own coffee. "But what matters down here isn't what you did. Last patrol. It's what you do next." Mercer nodded. "I didn't do it alone." "No," McAllen said. "But when that relay panel opened, no one else's hands moved but yours." Later that night, with systems slowly coming back online, Commander Donovan stood before his senior crew in the command room. The lights were dimmed. The hum of the reactor had returned. They were operational, but the atmosphere remained solemn. He began without preamble. 2 months ago, I had a crewman ignore a drill protocol. He was arrogant, unfocused, more worried about what others thought of him than about the mission. Donovan looked at Mercer. "That man is now the reason we're still alive." The room was silent. "I've served on 5 submarines. I've read eulogies. I've led recovery teams. And I've sent letters home to families." He paused. "But today I witnessed the reason we train, the reason we drill, the reason we enforce discipline like it's oxygen." He turned to Mercer. "You made a mistake. You took responsibility. And when it mattered, you didn't freeze. You didn't doubt. You acted." Donovan's voice softened. "And that's what leadership looks like." No one clapped. No one needed to. They stood a little taller. Back in the sonar room, Mercer checked the system status one more time. Everything was green, stable. Dugan stepped. In behind him. "You ever think you'd end up here?" Mercer smiled faintly. "After that first week? No chance." Dugan chuckled. "Well, the ocean doesn't care about first impressions. It only cares who's still standing when the pressure hits." Mercer looked up at the bulkhead. "You think we're ready for the next mission?" Dugan raised an eyebrow. "We just drifted through a war zone, beat an infiltration op, and survived a near capture from a ghost sub. If we're not ready now, we never will be." Mercer nodded. But deep down, he knew something else. There was no such thing as ready down here. Only steady. Only disciplined. Only together. On land, mistakes are lessons. Underwater, they're death sentences. Seaman Mercer didn't become a leader because he was perfect. He became one because he faced his past, took responsibility, and acted when others froze. In the U.S. Navy, discipline isn't just a word, it's a lifeline. And respect isn't granted, it's earned, valve by valve, breath by breath, meter by meter below the surface. What would you have done in Mercer's place? Could you have pulled that lever, knowing your last mistake almost killed everyone? Share your answer in the comments. Because in the deep sea, your silence can speak louder than your words. If this story gave you chills, made you think, or earned your respect, subscribe to Authority Watch. There's more where this came from. Stay alert, stay ready, stay disciplined. We'll see you next patrol.